we believe, it's kind of hard to measure, but we firmly believe that if you're getting early pay instead of having to wait 30 days, then I'm probably higher on your list of customers.
Yeah.
You're coming to me. You're not going to do the 30-day job.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. Thanks for tuning in, however, and from wherever you're tuning in with us today. We appreciate you. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. My name is Caleb Talley. I am a Startup Junkie, member of the Startup Junkie team, and glad to be joined by my co-host today, Victoria and Harrison from the Startup Junkie team. How are y'all?
Doing well.
Good, thank you.
Another day in paradise. And we are excited to be joined by our friend Scott Coffey, all the way up from Central Arkansas with us today. Scott is with AccelePay and Exchange Capital, and he's going to be telling us a little bit about his, Wolverine origin story-esque, Marvel. I'm trying to fill in for Jeff here with some of the commentary there. But Scott, thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate being here.
So in that vein, tell us a little bit about Scott. Like, what's the Scott origin story?
The Scott origin story does not involve a Wolverine.
Okay.
So
or any radioactive spiders or any, okay.
Exactly. None of that. Very exciting, but none of that. Right. Born and raised in Conway. So like you said, up from Central Arkansas. So I'm an Arkansas guy. Mm-hmm. Lived here, came to school up here as a freshman and finished up at UCA in Conway, and then did a couple of years at Vanderbilt for grad school. And then I got in business.
Awesome.
So
yeah. Well, so you're Razorback, a little bit of Nashville tied there too. Yeah. Victoria's got some Nashville
girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
From Franklin.
Yeah. Very good. Beautiful place. Yeah. Love Franklin.
We all call the Hogs here though, except for some of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Roll Tide.
No, that's inappropriate.
We'll edit that out.
2 podcasts in a row now, by the way, which is amazing.
No, I'm all hog though.
Yeah.
People ask about, okay, you went to Vandy also. It's like,
yeah, no. You can't even.
Love to visit Nashville.
Yeah, beautiful place to
I'm
visit.
for the Hogs.
Yeah, good. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
So tell us, AccelePay has been around for a little while. Tell us kind of about that origin story. I think it goes back to your dad some there. Yeah.
Exchange Capital
Same.
goes back to 91.
Oh, the guy vice versa.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Exchange Capital started in 91. And I guess my entrepreneurial story, I didn't really set out to ever think about being an entrepreneur,
Some of the best guests we have on the podcast, I think that's where it starts. Like, I didn't really want to,
Yeah. This started, with my dad having started the company in 91. Yeah. I was finishing grad school in 92 in May and starting to interview, but hadn't really settled on anything. And my wife and I, we were married already by then. And so one day Dad called and said, "Hey, I've started this company, and if you want, I'd like for you to come work with me." And I asked him, what do you do? And I knew, but I was in grad school. I didn't have any time for anything other than school. So I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I started a factoring company." I said, "Okay, I think I've heard the word. What is that exactly?"
I've heard of factors.
Yes. So he told me, he said, "We're advancing funds on clients' invoices and helping their cash flow." And I said, "Okay." He said, "So I need some help. It's just me. If you'll come to work with me for, just come for a year, commit a year. And if you like it, fine. It's all you. We'll roll with it. If you don't, go do what you want to do, And he was in Little Rock. We're from Conway, but he was working in Little Rock at the time. And I said, "Sure." So my wife and I moved back to Little Rock and went to work, and I never thought about doing anything else. So the 1 year turned into 33 now for Exchange Capital. So
I was born in 91, and then when you said that, I'm like, oh crap, I am turning 33 this year. Oh gosh,
Caleb,
getting old.
could have left that
out. So what was your background? What were you studying?
Studied finance.
Okay,
cool.
All right, so it's kind of up your alley a little bit. Yeah,
Right, and that's the interesting thing. When he said factoring, I thought, okay, well, it's business.
Yeah.
And so he tells me, and then I get out my books and corporate finance and accounting and all of that, and Oh, it's in there, but they don't talk about it, right? They didn't back then, especially.
Yeah.
It was in that tiny little gray box in the binder where nobody looks. It's one of those asterisk little paragraphs. I did remember the transactions from intermediate accounting. That was it.
Why do you think that is, and has that shifted at all over time?
You know, I think it has become more mainstream. It's still an alternative finance field and role, but it has become more mainstream. Obviously, with digital and social media and just awareness in general out there. Of course, that was pre-internet when we started as well. You know, Dad's research on factoring and did he want to start the company took like nearly a year, which is probably 10 minutes worth on Google these days, right? So it has become more mainstream. And again, but it's still education. You know, I find so many, it's 9 out of 10 people that we talk to about engaging with, they either don't know we're doing what we're doing or don't know about factoring and didn't know it existed. They may have heard a little bit about it, but it's been education is really job one.
So as someone who doesn't know anything about it, how would you explain it to somebody who has no idea really how it would affect their business?
Okay. 2 ways. The more straight factoring answer would be, okay, so you're the janitor that cleans this building and you just finished the job for last week and you invoiced today. You're going to wait 30 days to get paid, perhaps, if that's the terms for you to get paid for doing this job. We can step in right at that point when it's time to invoice the building owner. We can get that invoice approved by them. They say, yes, it's been approved. She did a great job. We'll pay it in 30 days. At that point, we can advance you funds on that invoice. So if it's a $100 invoice, we make an advance you up to $85. So 85% of the invoice amount you can get today as soon as the invoice is approved. So you can take that 85, operate, do another job, buy more supplies, take on another job that you need to, whereas you might not could have if you're waiting to get that invoice paid.
Cool.
The other 15%, once the building owners pay, we're in the mix, so they pay us. So we'll keep the 85 we advanced you already, and then we'll keep a fee that's usually around 3%, 2.5% or 3%, and then the other 12% or so is coming back to you.
Gotcha. So it keeps business moving.
Right. The second way I would explain it would be, okay, so have you used a credit card before at a restaurant or anywhere? And the answer is yes. So at a restaurant on the square, you're going to use a credit card to pay. That restaurant gets paid tonight by the credit card company, less a fee. And then the credit card company is going to get paid back when you pay your bill to the credit card company. That's factoring.
Cool.
So really, if you use a credit card, so virtually the whole world has been involved in a factoring relationship or transaction. They just don't know it as factoring.
Very cool.
And so it allows business to keep moving, but also when I kind of process that, it allows potentially startups to operate at scale, to start operating at scale. Because if you're trying to get revenue out in front of expenses, you're able to pay your employees, whereas you might not otherwise. And that way you're able to retain employees, or you're able to retain resources or pay rent or on a lease for a brick and mortar, whereas you might be beholden to outstanding invoices in order to operate at scale and to hire and retain employees. So
exactly. You take it on a new business with their first invoice. They're waiting to get paid. What if they could get paid tomorrow?
Yeah.
They could say yes to that next job. Take that on. So yes, they're going to pay a fee for it.
Yeah.
But as long as they're making more margin, our fee is covered, and yes, they can scale quicker.
And comparing that to, yes, there's a fee associated with it, but another alternative to that is taking on venture capital. And then when you take on venture capital, you're on a treadmill for somebody else for perpetuity until you can afford to, buy them out or exit or whatever else. And it becomes sort of a beast that Jeff refers to it as a treadmill. It really is a beast that you have to raise in order to hire, invest in infrastructure or whatever else. So you're just operating with your own funds, essentially, the way I understand it, versus
exactly.
like operating on somebody else's funds. And, you're exchanging a fee for ownership of your own finances.
Oh, exactly. It's a way to scale and grow or meet your obligations without having to give up that equity right now. And nothing against the venture capital. There's a place for that. We're we're usually not in the same operating at the same time as venture
course,
capital.
yeah.
That's a different ballgame than where we are. But absolutely, we can help them scale on their own. And yes, again, there's a fee, but would the restaurant decide to quit taking the credit card because there's a fee?
No. Exactly. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. They build that in because they want the business.
Exactly.
Right? So it's similar.
Nice. So this exchange capital, tell us a little bit about AccelePay and how that came to be, throughout the kind of the timeline of business with that.
Yeah. So AccelePay is, we started in 2018, really late 2018. Did it a little bit slower, just trying to get that off the ground and see how that was going to work. But what AccelePay is it's been interesting because it's really the same financial model that Exchange Capital does with factoring and getting vendors paid early, and getting paid back by the client, by the customers. But we're coming at it from a totally different direction. Whereas with factoring, the client is the one that needs to get paid faster to help their business grow, right? With AccelePay, our client is the payer or the customer who has vendors that they need to pay, and they're going to pay them down the road at 30 days. What we do for those clients is not based on need. It's based on the fact that this client has vendors that may want to get paid faster. We come in and help that client offer early pay to their vendors for a discount, and we will pay the vendors early. Customer, our client, pays on terms. They don't pay us a fee. They don't pay any earlier. They don't change their cash flow. But when they pay us, if we've paid the vendor, say at a 3% discount at 97%, they're out. They get paid next day at 97%. Customer pays us, or our client pays us 100% on terms. There's that 3% margin in there. And the real thing that we love to do with our clients is we can take some of that 3% and share it back to our client. So it's, again, back to the credit card example, American Express points, Visa points, cash back, it's the same thing. You've got a card that doesn't offer points and a card that does. Most of us are going to use the points or the cash back rewards. Why?
Might as well.
Not because you need it. It's because you want it, because you can.
And I'm hoarding those bad boys.
Exactly. Exactly. It's because you think, well, I'd be dumb or foolish for not getting the points when they're just there to take, right? And that's what we do for those clients. Those clients are not credit needy. They're on the good credit, solid credit, no worries there. We love to come in and do this for them. Typically what we've seen is there's so many situations where companies that are not just startup companies and not just, solopreneurs or whatever, they may be doing tens of millions in revenue, but accounts payable, they're busy. They're paying payables. They're doing accounting work, but they may not have a strategy to really try to strategically capture the discounts from the vendors and get them paid early and have that as a program that they do. They're paying bills on time as a daily function. And we don't want to disrupt that at all. We want to let accounting do their thing, let accounts payable do their thing. That's why we, take on that role and come in and then really are that strategy. I mean, our tagline is turning payables into profits, right? We're taking ordinary payables that they pay on terms into a real strategy to really get some cashback rewards to the client, number one. A second benefit is really for those vendors that get early pay, they're going, that needed it, they're going to be that much more dependable and reliable for the client, right? Because they're better off financially, they're more solid. We believe, it's kind of hard to measure, but we firmly believe that if you're getting early pay instead of having to wait 30 days, then I'm probably higher on your list of customers.
Yeah.
You're coming to me. You're not going to do the 30-day job, right?
The folks that pay last, it's like, oh my gosh.
Right. So there's that. Yes, that benefits the vendors, and we're glad to do that. But it benefits our client because there's better delivery from those vendors. And a third benefit to the AccelePay model is some efficiency with the payables group as well. Because if we're paying a lot of those vendors through us, our client just pays us one time. And they're also not having to field calls from vendors. Caleb, if you really need to get paid, you're going to call early and say, hey, can you help me out? It's not due, but can you pay me? Well, that gets accounting kind of off their game, out of sync.
Like, well,
and so we help them avoid that as well. So it's really, I'll tell people if you draw the cash flow on a whiteboard, it's the same. The factoring with Exchange Capital and AccelePay. We're getting vendors paid early, customers pay us back. It still cycles around the same, but totally different perspective from helping the vendors and the factoring clients get paid quicker as opposed to helping our other clients get some cash back and they're on the solid credit side.
Very cool.
Yeah, and as like, so this leads to, well, I'll ask this question. What is kind of an ideal client for you? Like, is there a size? Is there a, annual operating budget that is just kind of like, this is our bread and butter? Or is it kind of, one size fits all?
It's not one size fits all. For factoring, for Exchange Capital, we work with startups up to clients probably having maybe $1 million on the books, maybe a little bit more. So we're a small factor as we're defined by the industry. We're on the small side. So we're dealing with smaller clients. Bread and butter is that 25 or 50,000 a month up to $500,000 a month. That's a great sweet spot for us. And we like that strike zone for client size because they're small enough, they're big enough to be meaningful, certainly, but they're small enough that our team, and our team is great. I mean, we've got the best staff, one's been with us since 95. So, I mean, long tenure of staff. And we really do a lot for the clients. It's not just push a button, invoice through, here's the money. Don't call us, or we'll call you back in 3 days, They've got our mobiles. They're calling us at night if they, so it's a lot of service and a lot of not babysitting, but it's a lot of taking care of the little details, things that some of those businesses in that zone, they need and appreciate us for being their receivables and their admin for that piece of the business. As what we've seen is as they get closer to that $1 million mark, they're probably going to be closer to being able to have their staff internal to take care of those things. They may can go get funding at a less expensive rate as well. Maybe it's line of credit or somewhere else. So that's a zone we don't really target that size. We'd rather play where we do, and it makes sense for our level of service and taking care of clients, and they're going to outgrow us and then either move to a different factoring relationship or they may get migrated back to the bank. We're a lot of referral business, almost exclusively. And so if a lender or a banker calls us with a client opportunity, we know we're just temporary.
Yeah.
We're going to be there until the bank says, hey, we've checked the last box. We can make the loan now. That's our end game, is to make sure they're taken care of that way. So that's the strike zone for us on the Exchange Capital side. Really, from an industry standpoint, we're a generalist. So we help everybody from trucking to staffing to service work or distribution, manufacturing, whatever really fits. If they've done good work and it's verifiable and the customer's creditworthy and they're going to get paid at some point in the future, that's what we need. So it really doesn't matter whether they're making doorknobs or cleaning floors or whatever. On the AccelePay side, for that strike zone, it's a little bit broader. It's an admin function for the payables side. And sometimes our clients, again, they're creditworthy, right? They're on the stronger side from a credit perspective. And we have some clients that use our money to pay the vendors early. But we have some that they don't want to use our money. They'd rather use their own money. And so we can share a bigger chunk of the fees back to them because it's their money and not ours. And we don't have a cost of funds in the deal either. So with those, our system utilizes a portal and it is extremely efficient and works very well. I didn't design it, so I can brag on it. But Jamie and his crew are fantastic. It's a super portal. And so, we could handle clients doing millions and millions of dollars because it's digital flowing through the system. And especially if it's not our money, it's pushing them through the system. And so there's really not they would outgrow us. At some point, they're going to have all their own capabilities. But certainly the size threshold is much larger on the AccelePay side, whether it be hospitals or bigger facilities or cities or larger entities rather than the startup or scale-ups. on the other side.
The reason I ask that is because from kind of being our administrative office at Startup Junkie, I have found that I don't have a system for for paying accounts receivable. It's just if I get an invoice, I pay it. If I'm like on the go, I see it, forgot about it, they remind me. I mean, it's just I don't have a good system for that. We don't have a bookkeeper. We have of course contract an accountant. IRS, we have an accountant. I promise. And so when it comes to invoices and accounts receivable, I mean, there's just not. It's a challenge. And I have folks that have reached out and said, "Hey, did you see this?" It's like, nope, I didn't see that actually. Like, let me go ahead and take care of this. So having something like that, I think, is beneficial, not just from the perspective of identifying discounts with vendors, but also just for helping have a system. Seems like there would be a lot of value add there too.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. And again, back to bragging on the portal, it is really set up so it can be an all-inclusive. Vendors submit invoices through the portal. They get noticed and alerted to payables to make sure they get approved. And so you can really use it for the whole spectrum of payables.
Yeah.
But yes, what AccelePay does, taking out the money side, it really is an admin function that could be that, so that your payables go in there, they get pushed out, everyone gets notified, and so it's an admin function from that perspective.
As opposed to like having 20 different programs or 20 different invoices coming in from 20 different directions for, this one's just a receipt, or this one's a paper invoice, and this one's a link to pay my invoice, and this one's this. It's like, leave me alone.
For the people not watching the video, Caleb, if I can describe, hand by the head, crazy eyes, that kind of.
I'll pay you when I can.
Well, and a lot of business owners, they're wearing all of the hats, and if there's one thing, it's like, it's not that you are not smart enough or capable enough, it's that you're doing all these other roles. That the last thing you can think of is creating a system to make sure your invoices are paid on time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Linda, I enjoy both sides. The AccelePay side, yes, it clears that up on the payables, and we could just pay all the payables for a client if they wanted us to take that burden off of them. On the other side, on the Exchange Capital side for factoring, I love knowing that, it's not just an admin function. That admin function really is to help our business clients and the owners be able to, go out and talk to their clients and talk to their customers on Thursday and not have to worry about how much is payroll going to hit tonight?
Yeah.
Who do I need? Pull this drawer out, this file out. Who has not paid me? And I've got to make some collection calls.
Because that's not fun.
No, not at all. And that's the other side of the relationship with their customers. So we'd rather do this. And again, we make sure credit's good, and we rarely have any issues with payment anyway. But just that phone call from the owner, they don't want to have to call and say, "Hey, glad we're doing good. By the way, could you ask so-and-so if that check went out?"
Yeah.
They don't want to have to do that. So we can do that for them, really, and monitor that and keep up with all of that. So they just get to make that nice phone call or that drop by and say, "Hey, Caleb, how can I take care of you? How can I help your business today? What can we do better?" Not asking for money at all, just straight up customer service. So,
Do y'all work with the federal government? Because they owe us some money, and I have found that I can't really kind of rattle the cage on the feds the way I could, a sponsor or something. They've got a little bit more authority and power.
You're not the most intimidating man, I'll be honest, Caleb. I don't know what it is about. It might be the denim jacket that kind of makes you look a bit more approachable than anything, I'd say. But
I'm just going, pretty please.
I was curious about, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that start out of necessity, almost similar to what you said at the beginning, that when your dad called up, he needed extra hands and extra brain, extra eyes, and you were the one. Talk about that relationship with your dad, starting out with him. Where's it at now? Talk a little bit about that.
I'd love to. In the beginning, it was great. It was great, and we were tiny. Our office were two offices side by side in an executive suite building in Little Rock. and we had a great intercom system that he would yell and it would bounce off the wall and bounce into my office back and forth. We had a fantastic network, a digital network with a 3.5-inch hard disk that we would, transfer data between our two PCs, the old sneaker network, that you guys don't have real good appreciation for. I realize at this table, but it was a thing. It was nice. But we grew from there. Got our own office, continued to grow and add some people. And again, we're small. We've not added hundreds of people by any stretch, but being able to work with Dad has been just the greatest joy and blessing to me. I literally have never looked back thinking, well, should I have done this or should I not? There were other things I could have done, and had some opportunities maybe, but never thought twice about it. He's great to work with. I think we complement each other. He is, when we need to make decisions, he'll jump in and do that, but he's been very hands off. And from day one, he said, it's your deal, Okay, Dad.
Yeah.
Just started, but okay, So he's been great to work with and just get to spend time with him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade that. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been 30.
Sorry.
No. I was just gonna say it's been 33 years, and he's still around. He's 86 and just working every day. Couldn't stand COVID because he couldn't be in the office for people to drop by and talk and do some work and all that. So, but yeah, he's got another project. He doesn't really do much with us with either of these, other than if I ask him, he will certainly. But he's got another project and he's traveling around and
Cool.
all kinds of stuff. So it's great. But like I said, I would not. It's been the biggest blessing for work.
Very cool.
Absolutely.
How is it kind of managing that relationship? Obviously, on one side is your father, but on the other side is a coworker. So, can you kind of speak on that, I guess? Yeah,
I guess early on, and Dad was not one that when I came in, he said, "Okay, here's the rule book, and here's the," he wasn't really authoritarian like that. We've always had a very good relationship, but it was us together. Really, it was kind of like two coworkers trying to figure this out because there was not a blueprint for factoring company. Okay, here it is. There's a million of them, so go look, watch it, and see, and just do just like that. There was no blueprint, so it was a little bit figure out along the way, and we just both got in and did that. I was, he certainly leaned on me for the technical side and the computer side, so I was, certainly focused on that, and the database and tracking invoices was a big thing. But I mean, we love to joke also. Yeah, we had a computer, but we had a ring binder for every client and a little date stamper. Yeah. At every invoice, we'd flip through the pages and stamp them paid. I mean, so it was archaic as well, but we just worked together doing it. And when there were big decisions to be made, I knew he was going to make the call. Yeah. When it was time, when it had to be made, if I didn't know and he didn't ask me about it, he would make the call if we needed him to. And that just kind of evolved over time as I was there longer, and it quickly got to, oh, he's the boss, don't ask me. So, and he would lean on me and I'd make a few decisions here and there as well. So.
I will say we've gotten away from that, but I could see just how therapeutic and rewarding it would be to stamp something paid. I'm a list maker, pen and paper, mark it off when it's done. So being able to stamp paid, done, complete, and have, I would appreciate that.
It was interesting and good, but now when that one schedule, if a client turned in 10 invoices on the schedule, you see them and you stamp them all, but when that one is left, you wouldn't have liked that. It would have gotten on your nerves a little bit.
Yeah. I would have. Let's start making some phone calls.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned earlier that the kind of struggles that your dad had with COVID. Obviously, AccelePay was founded just before COVID, so y'all were a fairly new business. Were there any struggles that went along with that?
Along with that, really the main thing was just the inability to get out in front of people and talk about it. And that's how we like to do. It's face-to-face more. I mean, we could call people and talk about it, but it was a kickoff business. So, and we're so relationship with all of our lenders and other referral sources and relationships. So that's how we wanted to do it. And that was difficult to not be able to get in front of people.
Especially with that education piece being important too, I imagine. Yeah.
Right. It was a whole different. Again, it very similar in the mechanism and the funding, but at the same time, very different to explain it. And we're working with the other side of the business equation, and AccelePay is extremely digital. You know, with the factoring, it's invoices and we don't stamp the books anymore, Caleb, but we're still, we're making sure everyone's paid and all, you know, we have to go through those details and we're looking at invoices and auditing those. With AccelePay, you know, Harrison, if you're a client and you say an invoice is approved, I'm not going to look at an invoice. I don't have to see an invoice. I just know you said it's approved and you're going to pay me back. So we're going to pay Caleb for it. Just digital, click, and done. So very different from the factoring, very clean from that standpoint. But yeah, back to Dad and COVID, he just didn't like it because he's been working in an office for 58 years. He said, that's not, he is the congenial. He wants to sit down, hey, let's talk about business or not business, whatever. Let's talk through anything and what's been going on. He loved, being that. And in the office, it was great, but not in the office. It was tough. He was just at his home office like the rest of us were, and he didn't like that, which we converted. So we're remote now, which is great, and our staff loves it. But he's the out and about guy. He loves that, and he's great at that. So, yeah.
So you are all completely remote?
We are, yeah. During COVID, I kept checking with staff, making sure it was going well during COVID, and they said yes. And then finally one day, our VP said, "This is going well. Like we really like this. Like, what would you say if we wanted to keep doing this remote?" I said, "Sure. If y'all like it and we're getting things done."
It's a cost savings right
It
there.
is. It is. And so that was a non-issue. We did not have a lot of walk-in clients anyway, but the few during COVID had already gone, obviously, all remote and digital, so we were paying them electronically too. So we had no walk-in clients, and we get everything electronic and postage. So it worked great for that. So they love it. We meet once a week and get to see each other and have a good team meeting and all that. But they love working remote.
And I know you work out of the Arnold Innovation Center, where Conductor's office is at quite a bit. Do they work out of spaces like that, or are they spread out? Like, what does that look like?
They're at home, Conway and Little Rock, both. So.
You don't have anybody that's like, I'm going to go to Puerto Rico. I'm not working from Puerto Rico.
We've not had anyone do that.
Okay.
Yet, yeah.
I've thought about it.
Yeah. You couldn't do this though.
Yeah, no, that's true. You put me like an iPad with my face.
Yeah. No one went that far, but so they're close enough, so we get to still see each other on a regular basis. So,
cool. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Which one do you like? It's like picking your favorite child, but which one do you like working on more? Which excites you more? Which one keeps you up at night? Which one keeps you excited? A little bit of both.
Good questions. All there. Yeah. Exchange Capital's been around longer, more established, certainly a bigger client base, and that's the one that our staff works with. So that probably causes more meetings and things like that to do.
Yeah.
I do business development for both. So that one, that requires some work and all the relationships as well. But I love that business. Really, it's good, steady business, and for what it does, I love the fact of knowing we're helping clients in a whole host of different industries, but we're helping them get from A to B, from their growth and their scale up, and that's neat to do. We've got a client we just got paperwork with on this week, and he's got a device that's going to help, initially overlander people that are out and about off the grid with hygiene, shower type stuff. But the application of that, just hearing him talk about what might be the next phase, people that are in places that don't have that capability, where that could help. It's like, man, that's really cool. Yeah, that's neat to be able to play a small role in helping someone like that get to the next level.
That's one of the best parts about working here too. It's a very similar thing.
Yeah. So then there's been all kinds of different, whether it's a caterer in the middle of the oil field for the oil rig people or whatever, staffing and trucking and all the usuals. It's neat to be able to work with those.
Yeah.
AccelePay, I think it's exciting. I think it's been, I love what the future of that is. It's digital, so I think that's kind of the where that goes also. But it's just a great, I think it's a great product, a great service for clients. Not because we came up with it, we didn't create the industry, but there's just not someone around our area in our region really.
Who would have started it if it wasn't excited and didn't meet a need, right?
Yeah, right. So, but yeah, I love getting to work with those guys, and it's newer. You're right. It during COVID, that was challenging, but really it's more just disappointing to me because I didn't have the time. I didn't have the ability to go promote it as much. We don't have staff, so we don't have as much sunk costs or fixed overhead. So it wasn't a big, like a cash drain or anything. It's just, I was limited on how we could grow it during that time period. And we had some beta clients and they worked great. And so, now I do that, outside of my exchange capital time. And when I have time to do that, I promote both. But I think it's got huge upside as well. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Cool.
Ready to land the plane?
Land it for us, sir.
Take this time.
If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self,
Fast
what would
forward.
it be and why?
Fast forward to 91 or further with all the accumulated knowledge you have now.
I think, and not that I did a bad job of it, but I think I would tell myself, just make sure and take it in and enjoy and appreciate where you are, as much as I've appreciated working with Dad. And as much as I loved when my daughters got to, one worked for me for longer when she was younger during high school, junior high and high school, summer, all that. And one of them, at least for a summer and then some, the joy of that and going back and seeing those pictures when, whether they were clowning around or me and Dad working on stuff, just to make sure and take that in. And certainly not everyone has a chance to be in a family business and being in that position, but even still, just take in where you are, because I think if you're hustle and bustle and busy and your kids are younger and you may miss some things because it's business and you're driving and you're growing and scaling and all that, just try not to miss any of those moments. I think about it when our office was in Little Rock, and then we moved it to Conway in 2008. I don't think about it much, but I know before 2008, I missed stuff. I wasn't, I couldn't drop by school anytime and have lunch. I couldn't, some of those kinds of things that I can and did once we got to Conway. So I would say just make sure and appreciate, what you have and where you are along the way, not just always looking down the road and not realizing where you are, But yeah, our family is, our family is very close and important to us, and our faith is very important to us as well. So I would just say, stay true to those and make sure and be aware of kind of where you are along the journey and enjoy that. So I guess that's it.
So for our listeners, our actual last question, for our listeners who want to know more about you, want to connect with you, want to learn more about AccelePay or Exchange Capital and want to get plugged in some form or fashion, where do they go?
You can go to either of our websites. Of course, I would probably just say, call me or text me on my mobile. So that's easy enough. But both of our websites, AccelePay or XCap, both .coms. And I'm not sure if we can flash that or if I need to
Put it in the
we'll
say
put it in
what
the
they
show
are.
notes, yep.
Okay,
There's
put
actually fireworks on the screen.
right now, across my forehead.
Just
right
like-
on your forehead.
I've got space. Yeah.
Across the bottom.
Yeah.
We'll put those in the show notes.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
sure.
Very good.
People
Yeah.
click,
Slightly
Call-
less glamorous. But it's okay.
Yeah. Call, text.
Cool.
That's how we do things.
Yeah.
We're much less glamour and
More
gloss
relational.
and all that. We're just, hey, call me or text me or let's talk about this.
It's awesome.
We don't have a pull it off the shelf and we'll send it to you.
Yeah.
We'll just talk about it and
Yeah.
see if we're a good fit.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
absolutely.
Thank you for
Well,
coming.
we appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all for having me. Appreciate
Absolutely.
the opportunity.
Thanks,
Finally
Scott.
get to be on.
Ecosystem builders, entrepreneurs, chambers of commerce, mayors. If you're interested in taking your economic future into your own hands, we've got a book that can help you. Creating Startup Junkies, Building Sustainable Venture Ecosystems in Unexpected Places is the guide. It's a little bit inspiration. It's a little bit toolkit. What it will allow you to do is take your economic future into your own hands and build a sustainable small business, innovation, and entrepreneurial ecosystem in your backyard. If you'd like to hear more, check out creatingstartupjunkies.com. The Startup Junkie podcast reaches over 100 countries and has had over 100,000 downloads. If you're interested in reaching some of the most motivated and engaged innovators and entrepreneurs on a worldwide basis, give us a shout.